his large rearview mirror and stepped down closer so he could hear her. Neon blue jello shots. When will they learn? Frank chuckled with her. They'd worked together many times over the years. Same drama, different weekend. On to the Stag, then? He asked. She nodded. Yep. Portraits are done. Thank goodness. The Stag Whiskey Distillery was her favorite venue. Just the thought of it made her grin. She liked this couple and the wedding had gone well, but all day she'd been excited to get to the reception. If Charlotte was a wedding kind of gal, she'd definitely book the Stag for her festivities. But since she'd been there, done that, and it would never happen again, she made sure to recommend it to every bride she worked with. Production of whiskey and vodka was their main gig and very lucrative, but 3 years ago when the business was still young, they'd started renting out the upstairs space for weddings and other events. Charlotte was one of the very first photographers to shoot there, and she loved watching it evolve into what it was now, one of the most sought-after venues in the Kansas City metro area. What with their delicious spirits, awesome building, and killer branding, they were set. It was just the cherry on top that the 3 owners, TJ, Jake, and Dean, were all super hot. Charlotte liked to tease them that reality television would eventually knock on their door, something they all balked at. Frank drove the trolley through the town square of Maple Springs, Kansas, a suburb of the Kansas City metro. Charlotte had lived in Maple Springs her entire life, but it wasn't quite the same town she'd spent her childhood in. There were now 2 high schools, and instead of Mama's Kitchen being the only option for a meal out, there were a handful of chain and independently owned restaurants. Something she had no complaints about. The town square had been undergoing a revival over the past couple of years as well, which the community seemed to be excited about. As they headed for the Stag, Charlotte took in the mix of small shops that had opened up. Several of the bridesmaids behind her were also pointing out their favorites as the vehicle rolled through town. She personally loved the Craft Shack, but also Nana's Toy Box, Yellow Brick Coffee, and even Totally Nuts, a boutique nut roasting shop run by a little old man named Pete Jenkins. Charlotte had gone to high school with his granddaughter, and she could recall that the man had been, well, one might say the name of his shop was very appropriate, but he sure could roast a perfect bag of pecans, almonds, or cashews. Charlotte had many great memories in Maple Springs, and despite its population doubling in size over the past decade, it still felt like a small town. The Stag Whiskey Distillery in the old brick building on the corner of Hickory and Sterling Avenue only added to the town square's charm. Over the years, the building had housed everything from a furniture store to offices. It had even sat vacant for a time, but luckily the Stag guys had come along and snatched it up. To their credit, they'd made the space functional for their business, but also managed to maintain its historical integrity. The upstairs venue space was simple yet elegant, perfect for weddings, and depending on how the bride chose to decorate, it could work with a variety of styles. Spacious yet intimate, its mix of industrial and antique gave a timeless look and feel. It also always looked gorgeous in photos. Brick walls weren't normally conducive to good images as they tended to soak up all the light, but the beauty of the place, the giant chandeliers, stone fireplace, and wood beams made up for that. Plus, Charlotte had shot there so many times she knew exactly what settings to use and where to place her flash the minute she walked in. As the trolley pulled to a stop at the front door, her stomach fluttered in anticipation. She glanced down and took inventory of her black slacks and cream-colored blouse. Thankfully, she'd managed to get through the day without getting dirty, which wasn't always the case. Pulling out her phone, she shot a quick one-word text to her assistant Lauren, alerting her that they'd arrived. She glanced at the clock, pleased to see they'd timed things perfectly. After working together for almost 7 years, she and Lauren were like a well-oiled machine. Once she'd received Charlotte's text, Lauren would alert the DJ to their arrival. He should then be ready to announce the bridal party. From that point forward, the reception would proceed as normal. Because they were all so similar, it was almost laughable. Charlotte could shoot a wedding in her sleep. After tossing Frank a cheery wave over her shoulder, she was the first person off the trolley as the bridal party gathered their things. Before stepping inside, Charlotte took a quick swipe at her lower lashes, hoping her makeup hadn't melted too much during afternoon outdoor portraits. She fidgeted with her hair, then opened the door and inhaled the now familiar scent of fermenting alcohol. Heading into the expansive first floor, she relished the chill.